incredibly hard question. I never even thought that would be a question I would be asking.
I used to listen to a lot of pop rock bands like MLTR, Bryan Adams, and then there was this one moment and it was all like, massive transition to like classic rock, hard rock, glam rock, prog rock being the key word.
You've created one of India's finest rock bands, 800 gigs, 30 plus songs, collaborations with the biggest artists.
That was like it for me. I was like, if I want to do this, let me try. And Mridul and I had played in Feedback. That was our first band. So we were like discussing startup ideas. So, music was still not like the main thing that we were thinking of. We thought that, let's figure out what all cool ideas we can work on. And at the same time, we'll work on some music in parallel and see where it goes. I was completely absorbed by the, process of writing, recording. Once we were done recording the songs, I was also super interested in how do I put this out? Like, how do we distribute this? Like, how do you market this? I realized that I was genuinely enjoying
the rock scene in India, rock scene outside, something that we both share so much love with. Varun is,
a rock star for India. There did come a phase when rock music was on decline, almost like out of all the charts. In the last 3 years or so, we've been seeing a lot of undercurrent where, you can feel that, the rock music is coming back.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Inner Scorecard. I'm your host Nikhil Kapahi, currently enjoying my hiatus from Amazon. I'm in Prague and I'm hosting this podcast, and today we have a very, very special guest, Mr. Varun Rajput, somebody I've known for close to a decade, and I think in my eyes truly exemplifies the meaning of Inner Scorecard. Someone I looked up to back when I was growing up as well, who was really passionate about the craft, but always was, head balanced, like he knew how to navigate these things. And so today's conversation will be talking about the rock scene in India, rock scene outside, something that we both share so much love with. Varun is, a rock star for India, but I've grown up listening to rock because of my brother, and that's how we know each other. So my brother Varun Kapahi was the bassist for Antariksh, and I think I've attended more than at least 10, 12 shows, Antariksh for the first album launch, Coach. And today's conversation will be about the rock scene in India, the rock scene outside, Varun's transition from corporate, getting into a full-time musician, and then what he thinks about music as a career, and then, what does he think of the future of rock in India? But I just thought of you yesterday and I was like, imagine this, like somebody who scores who's the topper in class in 10th, 12th, gets very good marks, get into one of the best colleges in India. And, that college was Delhi College of Engineering. We both went to that college, and gets a very good job as a consultant, a very high paying job. And then years pass by and he has not created any startup. He's not had any big titles or big paychecks, and he has a rock band. Wait, what? That's just like, that's almost like blasphemy, if some Indian parents that would be like, yeah, that's just such a disappointment. I grew up in that family, where I would hear that a lot, that some of my aunts would come up to me and they would still ask me about my brother. They're like, does he still do music? I'm like, what do you mean still do music? Like, that's the only thing he knows to do, and that's what he'll do till he dies, So that was something very interesting for you. And I just put that into perspective in my head over the last, maybe 15, 20 years of your life. And I was like, yeah, that's just, that's not at all a Sharmaji's, Veda and somebody. But to be fair, that, you've created one of India's finest rock bands, 800 gigs, 30 plus songs, collaborations with the biggest artists, opened for, some of the biggest stars, and then performed at the biggest venues in India. It's just been such a, rock and roll journey. And with that, I think I want to start with some of the harder questions about, and, some of the harder questions that I've had is like, in my head, is that something, is rock dying in India? Like, that's something that I really feel concerned about. And I think it's an incredibly hard question for me to ask, because I, growing up, never even thought that would be a question I would be asking. Then, it's just like a no-brainer. Like, back in 2010s and 2000s, I would hear music from 60s, 70s, and that was considered, the gold mine of music. And now we're in 2020s and we're just questioning this whole genre that, a lot of people, I think I was surprised to see how many people listen to rock in India. So I'm actually such a big fan that I feel sorry to be asking this question, but truly, Varun, like, given your 12 years of experience with Antariksh, do you think rock is dying?
Firstly, man, thank you so much for that introduction. It was too fancy, honestly. Uh, yeah, things behind the scenes are not as fancy as they look on the outside. But no one, like, genuinely, thank you so much. It's very kind of you. I'm just very, very glad that, I have this opportunity that I can spend my time writing music, creating music, trying to put it out, market it, just living in this entire world, which once used to be like a dream. So I feel I'm just, fortunate enough to be living that dream, if anything else. But speaking about rock music, like I grew up listening to rock music. There was one point in time when I started listening to music, which was like English music, and I used to listen to a lot of pop rock. So, bands like MLTR, stuff like Brian Adams. And then there was this one moment, and it was all like, massive transition to like classic rock, hard rock, glam rock, prog rock. So the rock being the key word.
What was the initiating band for you? What band was that initiation step, as they say, right? Then you became from a boy to a man when you were like, oh, this is it.
Man, I think it was like it was definitely Whitesnake. So it's like one of my favorite classic rock bands, and you wouldn't believe that I was introduced to Whitesnake by one of my maths teachers at like a coaching I was taking for preparing for JEE. So life is like so interesting sometimes that it has its own ways to kind of like seed things. Like you would not imagine that you're going to let's an Akash Institute doing a crash course to prepare for JEE, and the maths teacher asks a question, who all like music, and I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, what do you listen to? I'm like, yeah, Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, this and that. So he's almost like looking down upon me. Modern rock and all. I'll give you something.
That is going to ruin
yeah,
ruin your life.
yeah, that's gonna ruin your life, literally. He gave me this cassette, actually a couple of cassettes. So one was like a Whitesnake album, and then there used to be this compilation of like some super cool tunes from different bands. You used to have these cassettes where people would record like 10 different songs from 10 different bands back in the day. So that was it, man. And I was like, holy shit, what is this music? And, I found it very, very interesting. I found it very rebellious, and it really resonated with me. So I, was like, I wanted to know more. I wanted to listen to more stuff. That's how at least my journey began. And
For me,
man.
I think it was Varun, my brother Varun. He got, like, I remember I used to listen to I would listen to Queen and, and for me, I went to English medium school. So it was just to sound cool that you needed to know music that nobody hears. So you're just standing out.
Yeah,
but I remember this one distinct moment. He got Black Sabbath, Masters of Reality. It was a cassette, and it was like with white cover. There's like a thick cassette. There were cassettes of different shapes. This was a thicker one. It had padding on it. And he played the first song where I'm forgetting the song name. It says "All Right," and where the Aussie starts with coughing, and it's a stereo sound which goes from left to right.
Yeah.
And he said, "Put on headphones and hear it." And I remember I was like, "Yo, what is this?" Like that song was like to me. Okay, I'm like, okay, never going back to that.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. And then, of course, we've seen the rise and fall and coming back of rock music over these, I think, 20 years now, more than that. So it's been pretty interesting. So, like there did come a phase, when rock music was on decline, you know, uh, and then almost like out of all the charts. So, if you were to see like charts at on, like Spotify, Apple Music, you will barely find any songs in the top 50, top 100, which were like rock songs. So, my analysis or, like way to make sense of it is that, any kind of sound gets saturated, right? And then whatever sounds fresh feels more interesting. So, at least my understanding is that, when rock music actually came into being, it was the sound of rebellion. It was a sound people hadn't heard before. They were like, what the hell is this? Right? It was very new. And it was very honest, very organic. It came from a place where people were genuinely telling some really interesting stories. People were expressing themselves. Uh, and that resonated, I guess, with, audiences worldwide. But over time, as with any form of music, uh, you have like then a lot of it. And then, that sound starts to feel like, okay, I've heard this before. Oh, yeah, I've heard this kind of stuff before. So, you always gravitate towards something that's new or that sounds different from, what you've been hearing. So, I guess it's just a very natural cycle. So, I think last 10, 12 years, you've had so much of hip hop, rap, music, all of that being like the popular genres here. But at the same time, in the last 3 years or so, we've been seeing a lot of undercurrent where you can feel that the rock music is coming back because now that sound is like started to get saturated. It's done and dusted now. At least that's what I feel. Everyone's doing the
And you're
same
saying
thing.
for India and global, you feel the same thing? Like, is it similar for both?
Yes, I think so. I think so. And it's definitely more global in India where, the impact will be a little, I guess, delayed. Uh, but you're already, getting those like little feeders, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
Slowly.
true. I went to a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert in Washington, US, and it was funny that me and my wife we are in our 30s, and we looked around and we were the youngest out there, and we were like, "Oh, everybody's here in 50s, and you're there like having grandkids," and so you could see the demographic. I'm like, "Yeah, no," but like there were like maybe just a few couple of people we could see who were younger than us. So it was it was kind of sad as well. I'm like, oh, this has really changed. Growing up, like, maybe that's just the sign of us getting old. Uh, but I yesterday I heard Bloodywood
Hmm.
for the first time
Yeah.
because I recently saw somebody covering them saying that they're not very famous in India, but they're very
Hmm.
famous outside of India.
Hmm.
And I had no expectation, and I heard them, and I'm like, yo, again, that same feeling came. Like, what is this? Like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
So that that kind of inspired me to have like, okay, there's still a lot of hope.
Oh,
What
yeah.
was going
Yeah.
to come
Those
out of
guys have
him.
killed it, man. They're so good. And like, there's just a completely different thing altogether when you see them live. The kind of energy they have and the stage presence, it's fantastic. They just put on such a great show. And I
And
think
they're from New Delhi, right?
yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And like what an incredible journey, right? Like they've kind of paved the way for so many more bands here because yes, at one point, let's say local train kind of spiraled out and, they became really big. And which was a great thing because they kind of paved the way for a lot of other acts to follow. Like Prateek Kuhad in the singer-songwriter space has done really well for himself. And when it came to metal, like metal, folk metal, like Bloodywood is just like, oof,
Mhm.
yeah, the show is something that you, really have to watch. Yeah.
Do we still have the Great Independence Rock Festival and
So
GIR that was famous, right? Like when we were, it was the
yeah, no, GR actually stopped quite a few years ago. So it was run by RSJ and Amit Sehgal to be specific. But after his passing, I think the festival was discontinued. Independence Rock came back, I think 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, which was also
Mhm.
not been happening since a long time. So again, one of those signs of like, okay, rock music
Yeah.
kind of coming back. It came back after almost, I don't know, 10, 15 years. I don't know the exact time period, but something like that.
And is there like, in a way, like I think about India and I see that there's three main regions. If maybe if I'm, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's the North region, which is
Mm-hmm.
predominantly Delhi, like where there's a whole scene of rock and, Delhi being the capital, the cultural capital as well. Like, there's a lot of jazz and stuff. But then there's way down in the south, like, you go to Bangalore, where there's the other big scene that is happening. And I think the third one is maybe in the east, which is near Shillong. Is that the right way to put it? Like that's how you think about it as well, or there's like mini, hubs of rock like everywhere.
There are now actually. So what's also happened in the last 10, 15 years is that, of course, the internet penetration is at its, highest ever. So the kind of music rock music is in general, right? It takes a person a few more listens than once to kind of really understand the layers of the music, because generally it is not something that just you listen to it in the first listen, you will be like, oh, wow, I love it. You might, but the chances are fewer
Right.
that you will because it is intense. It is usually, I mean, it is heavy, it's intense, there's so many layers to it. So for a person to actually completely grasp what a song is saying, you usually need more than one or two listens. And now
Right.
I feel that that exposure is there, that availability is there. So people have access to all kinds of music, and then that has just probably led to all kinds of music. I would say
Yeah.
finding like these audiences like, and there are so many smaller hubs now. Like I get messages from people in Lucknow, people in Jaipur that who like we want to have Antariksh over for a concert, and there are bands from like Chennai covering Quest, like it's one of our songs, and I'm like, wow, like a Hindi, almost like a prog metal song being covered in Chennai. So
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of
That's
interesting.
beautiful. Yeah. And talk to me about your transition, like from this, I would say, ideal, you know, Indian kid, like acing all the academics and then moving into corporate, moving into rock
I
world
was
completely.
barely
Like,
I
there's,
was barely getting by, man. Honestly, all I was interested in, like at least in my growing up days, was just to like I was interested in playing sports. That's all I cared about. Like I used to play hockey, and at one point I really wanted to like play professionally. I think I was good at it, and I mean, studies and all were fine. Yeah, you would like. I wasn't averse to it, but yeah, I like did my best to get by. uh,
but getting into Delhi College of Engineering, I would imagine in that time, I think you're much more senior to me, but even in those times, it was highly competitive, right? Like, I think, uh, it's not, yeah, I agree.
yeah,
I think most of the people that I would meet, even in our college, like Delhi College of Engineering, they were not good at academics. They just knew how to pass. They just knew how to get good marks, but they would have all the fun in the world. So,
yeah.
how was that transition like? What were the key performance indicators, the KPIs that you were assessing that, okay, now is the time I can make that switch?
So I think what really happened was that until I got into DC, there was no plan of obviously like getting into music. I was an avid listener at that point, but I hadn't still picked up playing the guitar. So it was while I was in my first year, I bought an electric guitar and formed my first band. And four of the other members who happened to be from IIT Delhi. So I actually spent more time at IIT Delhi than DC during my college years, and that's when I realized that I just fell in love with the whole process of rehearsing, learning new songs, jamming, going out and playing competitions. Like we won a few, so that uh, that gave me even more confidence, and that was just a very beautiful phase. But uh, at the same time, I really knew that it was not something I could pursue full time. It was definitely not a
Mm.
career opportunity at that point. So all of that happened. I played in a couple of bands during the college days, and the usual stuff like you form a band, you play competitions, DU, this, that, IITs. It was fun, and then everyone got jobs and everyone went to different cities and were sucked in by the corporate world, and so was I. Uh, it was like then started working about I guess 2 to 3 years into it. I realized that man, like I had this dream of writing and recording and releasing an album, and I like, yeah, this has to happen. And
Yeah.
also at the same time, I was kind of getting bored with the corporate life because uh, although I kind of enjoyed the work, but the routine was pretty monotonous for me. And that excitement of, embarking on a new thing every day was just not there. So I thought, I don't want to live with this, feeling of not having given it a shot. So that was like it for me. I was like, if I want to do this, let me try. Let me do it for a couple of years, see where it goes. If it fails, it fails. At least I'll be completely like satisfied and happy inside that I gave it a shot. It didn't work out. It's all good. Uh, and at the same time, you of course know Mridul. So Mridul was working at McKinsey at that time in the US, and he was also in a similar situation. He quit his job. He came back to India, and Mridul and I had played in Feedback. That was our first band. So we were like, discussing startup ideas. So, music was still not like the main thing that we were thinking of. We thought that, let's figure out what all cool ideas we can work on, and at the same time, we'll work on some music in parallel and see where it goes. I mean, it was not like a thing. So we started doing both of those things, and just I was completely absorbed by the process of writing, recording, and once we were done recording the songs, I was also super and kind of interested in now how do I put this out? Like how do we distribute this? Like how do you market
Right.
this? How do you get it out to people and then get some feedback? So it was a very interesting learning process for me, and I realized that I was genuinely enjoying it. Uh,
Mm.
so honestly, that was that kind of eureka moment for me that you know maybe I can like do this for more than 6 months or a year,
Yeah.
maybe like 3 years or 4 years, and then take a call. While at the same time, in the
Right.
first 6 months only, Mridul figured out that when music became like primary work for him, he was not enjoying it as much. So we had like completely opposite.
Opposite
uh,
reactions to the same experiment.
exactly.
And what about like finances and like I think the main two reasons why people kind of give away their pursuit is one is just the financial side of it that it's not cutting it. The second is just expectations from people, right?
Yeah.
Like I've seen this at home. Like I can't imagine people like any other person than my own brother like fighting for that thing for like decades.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the thing I do. It's not just a hobby that I do
Mhm.
after work or after school. So those two things were never a concern for you. Like, is that correct?
I mean, there were concerns at points, right? So when we started, I had some savings from, like 3 years of work, which lasted me for a couple of years. After a couple of years, I actually did run out of all my savings. And there came a point where I was like, okay, this is not working out because the first 2 years, we barely made any money.
Right.
And so at that point, I dabbled with another startup idea with a friend. And I thought, let me put this on the back burner. We'll see where it goes. We put out the album, because in my head, I had this idea that, once you have an album, you have some credibility. Only then people will
Right.
take you seriously. So I spent like 6, 8 months, we all wrote the album, we put
On
it out
coach, right?
on
Yeah.
Coach. Yes. But nothing happened. So, like 3, 4 months after the album, like it was all blank. And we were like, holy shit, this is not that easy. And then I started figuring out, okay, this is not gonna work. Let me get back to, like either the corporate world or something. And one of my friends was just starting up. He had like an idea that he was working on. which seemed pretty exciting. And then I joined him, and we kind of co-founded this startup making mobile games and a platform for mobile games. And I thought, let Antariksh be running on the back burner. We'll see whatever gigs come, we play. But as luck would have it, at that time the gigs started coming in a lot more, and the demand started increasing. And suddenly I was like stretched beyond all means. That here was the startup which I was supposed to be like one of the founding members of. And then we were getting queries for Antariksh to play in different cities. So I was like, holy shit, now what do I do? Because I can't take leave from my own thing. This went on for a year and a half, and then that startup also kind of faded away. I still did not have the confidence to like go with it full time. So I started applying for a few jobs here and there. And I thought, okay, now Antariksh is making some money. We've recovered our investments, but it's still not big enough for me to do this full time. I applied for a few jobs, like about 2 to 3 months. This is 2015 I'm talking of. But then I got a call from Parikrama to fill in as a session guitar player for a few gigs. Saurabh, their guitar player, who was not there, and then Sonam Da was not there for a few gigs. So they called me to fill in for them, and which was again very cool. It was like one of
Yes.
those moments. Like Parikrama was like one of the first bands I ever
Yes.
saw. And 10 years later, I get to play with them. It was like, holy shit, this is really cool.
Yes.
And I started playing sessions with a lot of people here and there, and then money started adding up.
Yeah.
That's when my dad kind of sat me down. He's like, "Yaar, tu ek cheez kar le. You figure out if you want to do music, or you want to
Yeah.
do like the corporate thing, or you want to do whatever your startup thing, but you can't be doing all of it
Right.
because you won't get anywhere." So he's like, if
Yeah.
you're so this time around, he kind of dissuaded me from going back into the corporate world. So to answer your question, like there were points when people were concerned that kya kar rahe ho zindagi mein.
Yeah.
But at this point, dad was like, now you sit and do this, and like you
Yeah.
persevere and figure out like what needs to be done. So which I think was pretty awesome. And he also sat me down that you need to start singing. So he's like, until that point, we'd had like 2-3 singers,
Right.
and we were not getting a stable singer. So every time like a person would change, the identity of the band would change. So my father sat me down. He's like, you need to start singing if you wanna go ahead with this project, because fortunately or unfortunately, then you at least have some identity. And singers do become the identity of like an act or a band. So after
That's
a
amazing.
lot of
Yeah.
like I never wanted to be a singer. I was just happy being a composer, guitar player.
Yeah.
But then like I did
But it was a
listen to his
necessity,
advice.
right?
It got to a point
Yeah.
where I was like, okay, shit, like I do need to do this. Which I think was
Yeah.
a very good decision, because that brought a lot of stability, at least to the identity.
Right. No, that sounds like, I think, you've said, I think I was reading somewhere you said that starting a band is like a startup, which sounds like it. And I think also like the reason you enjoyed corporate was also in a way overlapping with the music, because a lot of creative people have a hard time putting things out. They love that process of creating, but that shipping and following up and creating a buzz, then, it is tiring. It's a very different side of brain that needs to do that. It's very analytical. Like your best songs become your worst nightmare because you have to keep performing them, and you're just known for those. And same for, any other creative field like acting and singing and things like that. And I think that was that speaks out, right? Like you were the only one who, and there were multiple people who, came into the band, and they all left for work, for stability, and wherein you were able to carve out stability in the band. And I think definitely their identity now over the years have been like Antariksh, like is almost synonymous with your face and name. So that I have seen that journey, before. I mean, I think I was there when Coach was being released. I was there at the official, at the Blue Frog. You had the the release of the album, I was there. It was this beautiful to see, all of you putting in effort. And then it was very nice to see from afar, how much you've been putting in the effort. And I think I also, wonder, I was reading somewhere that you have done 800 plus gigs with Antariksh. Is that a, is that the right number?
Yeah, more than 1,000 now.
That is insane. That's like 3 years of just every day performing gigs. And tell me something crazy. Like it's for me as a fanboy. Like I would always imagine like music and especially rock music to be just such a you were growing up. I would read about Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix. Like these guys. What a crazy life. Like I when I'm their age, I don't think I could have done that. Like I would not have enjoyed it too. But I'm wondering, like from your tell me like if there's some interesting story that you might have had, either with Parikrama that you were touring with, or with Antriksh. Um, what is it like to be going and performing in front of like thousands of people, and especially at new places when you don't know how the reaction would be?
Yeah,
How has that been?
it is like one of the highest highs possible, right? Being on stage, performing in front of an audience, putting up a show, playing songs that you've been writing for a while, even if they're like, arrangements or covers, there is, like that feeling is what actually, I guess for most people, like keeps them going on, because it's a high that it's very hard to kind of, find elsewhere, I guess, for if you have like that, if you're in the space of music at least. So, I mean, there's like nothing like playing live, but at the same time, it's also very glamorous on the outside. It's not that easy sometimes because, touring schedules get really, really hectic. And yeah, and there are days when it's just not fun at all because let's say you're playing back to back gigs, you're traveling between three cities, barely getting any sleep. It was kind of not that big of a deal for me until I was just playing guitars. I could play like, 20 gigs a month. But ever since I started singing, I realized that it was much harder. And, you can sing 2 days in a row, but the third day your voice is kind of telling you that, hey, you need to give it a break. So yes, with the singing, I've realized that, it's kind of gotten harder because you need like proper sleep, you need proper routine. But again, like it's so much fun, like going to different places. I would have never been to so many places in my life, if I was not gigging.
Yeah.
So that's very cool. You meet a lot of new people, you see new places. And then, like 10 years later, you meet someone, hey, I saw you at that gig there. Like, wow. So those moments are like, really cool. Yeah. So, I mean, that's about gigging. And we're not living in those 80s.
Do you have a particular memory of a gig like that was like either kind of very traumatic or like super funny? Like, do you have some story?
I'm sure, like, at least from the top of my mind, what I can think of is like, again, a very cool gig that we've played, a very good gig we played was at Christ University. And we were very surprised because these guys literally knew all of our songs. They knew the lyrics to all our songs. And, so we were playing like a mix of 70% originals and about 30% covers. That's what we do at college gigs because just to maintain some relatability as well. But, I wasn't too sure that, if we should play our heavier stuff there or not. And we pretty much ended the show. And now there was like a chant of the "We Want Quest." I was like, holy shit. And like everyone in that audience knew the lyrics to Quest and they were singing along. And it was like, one of those moments that, you feel that all the work that you've been putting behind this kind of just suddenly makes sense and feels worth it.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah.
That's amazing.
That was insane.
Yeah, speaking of Quest, like that was to me when I read it on Facebook. I think you had posted. I was like, "What the hell? This is truly next level." Like you're you get to sit with somebody and record with somebody like, of the highest levels. And, like I was reading your story on how you met him at the baggage counter. So that's your, your engineering spirit of like the cold DM.
A cold DM, not giving up. Tang
No,
karke,
and yeah, and I
yeah.
think yeah, I was reading the whole story. It was just so beautiful. Like, and you performed for the biggest safaris, as you said, like with Parikrama. Like, I think I don't know how many shows you've done with Parikrama, but like opening up for Farhan Akhtar, Lucky Ali, performing at the Weekender. Now, I think you must be at a stage where you feel like this was all worth it. Like, putting in that much effort, because I do imagine this was a lot more work than the traditional route you could have taken, right? Of having a consultant life and kind of a more of a laid out path for you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there'll always be two sides to it. I feel that, everything, you can't get it all, वो कहते हैं ना किसी को मुकम्मल जहां नहीं मिलता. So it's, one of those things कि, if you have like a corporate job, you have some stability, the finances are sorted, but, sometimes the work's not that interesting, or, whatever, the environment is not. On this side of things, I love my life. I love the flexibility that I have. I get to travel a lot. I'm genuinely, like doing what I love. But again, that instability is always there at the back of your head, unless you've, gone viral or you've had like one massive hit. That's when you see like an exponential rise. So for Antariksh, I don't think we've had that yet. So for us, it's been like, a very steady 20 to 30% growth year on year,
Right.
which I'm very happy and comfortable with, because
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's all good. If it spirals
Yeah.
out one day, if we do have that breakout hit, it'll all make more sense, because now we'll have like so much more of a catalog that'll get discovered. But we've not had
Right.
that viral hit. We're going very steadily, and so I'm kind of happy with that. Like
Yeah.
I like it. I maybe we're not doing as well as some of our friends in the consulting world are, or people who
Yeah.
like started up with different ideas. But like it's all good.
Yeah.
You will never have everything, right? So
So
it
true.
boils down to what you really resonate with, the kind of life you imagine for yourself. So yeah, I mean, I won't say it's
Yeah.
easy. I won't say it's as bad either. So any
So a lot
life
of
that you choose.
Yeah, a lot of the channel listeners are, people working in corporate,
Hmm.
and, they have this itch to do something beyond. And I often, as I get older, the more I realize that it's not a or option. It's not like you do this or you do this. It's like everything is not binary, 0 or 1. I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
flux in the middle. And I'm wondering, like, would you have any advice on somebody, like, advice or some, like, if you want to talk about this, is for people who are working in corporate and they have this itch to do something else, and they're not happy, super happy in their job,
Yeah.
but it's stable, it's doing what it's supposed to do, and now it's just too much of a inertia to move things around, to do things
Yeah.
on the surplus, like go for that, um as you're saying, that hit of doing that passionate thing that you really want to do, no matter what the results, no matter what the outcome comes out to be. What would you say to them? Like, what is one thing that comes to your mind that you would say to yourself when you were younger?
Yeah. So, I mean, had you asked me this question 10 years ago, I was like out there advising everyone, hey, go, do what you love, like take that leap of faith. Now, as I've spent more time doing this, I realize that not everyone's cut out for it, right? So, unless there's a really strong calling that you have, unless there's something that really drives you mad at night, or you're genuinely in love with something, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because and you will know it, deep inside you will know that if you really made for it or not, if you really kind of are cut out for it or not. I believe everyone knows it. So I would say that yeah, I mean, really think through, and again, there's no harm in experimenting, right? Take a break,
Right. It's a
like
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a reversible decision, right?
it
Like it's
is. It
like
is.
if it doesn't work out, who's stopping you from going back? Like, like
Yeah.
that's something that I think people often get so stuck in. In Amazon, we have a philosophy of like reversible decisions. So like we don't spend time on things that can be reversed. Like you
Right.
try it and you skip it and you come back.
Bye.
So I think a lot of people just over index on. I think it's a lot to do also with letting go of your identity in your
Mm-hmm.
own head, not for others. Others don't really genuinely care about you because
Yeah.
you're the one thinking about yourself most of the day. And I think it's just that sort of like, okay, who am I? Am I this corporate work who's, this person who's doing corporate and, other things versus am I this? Like, am I somebody who's like truly creatively, having creative passions and things?
Mhm.
And then switching gears, like talk to me about for Antariksh, like talk to me about and generally as a musician, like what are the different like sectors of money and finance? Like I'm wondering, like I think back before streaming, it used to be mostly gigs, which would generate revenue, but now has it changed since streaming? How has Antariksh generally, others adapted? Is that also a place where rock is kind of suffering? Is that adapting to mainstream media right now? Yeah. So talk to me about the finances and like the money and the finance part of being a musician, and what are the different sources of streams, and if you could compartmentalize like what is the 80/20 in that
Right.
finances, and yeah.
I mean, so over the last 10 years, I guess there are more revenue streams than there were earlier. However, at the same time, gigs would still be like 80% of where you'll make your most revenues from. So you have streaming, of course. Then you now have brand partnerships, right? Uh, I mean, you could be an influencer. You can also get like sync deals when your songs get placed in a movie or an OTT situation. So I mean, there are like a lot more opportunities. Teaching, of course, has always been there, but uh, you know, I would still say that like 90% of the musicians are making like more than 80 to 90% of the revenues by playing live. Still, streaming did come across as like a very formidable option a few years ago, but in India, the royalty payouts are again pretty abysmal. And I guess worldwide they are, but India is even worse. And yeah, and it takes like a lot of like big hits to see any substantial income on that side. However, I mean, the industry is getting organized. So there's like a publishing side of things where, whoever is the copyright owner of the content is now getting, revenue from any time like a song is kind of used anywhere. So, for example, like at shops, you have music playing. So earlier there were no royalties being collected. Now slowly this industry is getting organized. So anywhere any music is playing, there's a society that goes and collects royalties for that. And now systems are being put into place so that those royalties get distributed in the correct proportion. So all of that is happening. It's going to take still at least another 10 years for it to get like complete 10 to 15 years for it to like completely become like a very transparent situation. Yeah, that's that. I mean, I'm like I have this feeling that like the streaming royalties, the publishing royalties will definitely grow up by 20-30%. But again, live will still be like the biggest.
Yeah, I was pretty sad to see somebody post. I think she's a pop artist from LA, and she had like a couple of million listeners on Spotify, and she posted that I can't even pay my rent with the money that I get from, my streams. So it's just such a crazy reminder that, and I think as I've entered more creative field, I've realized that things I would think about, like, oh, if you have like 10,000 or 100,000 listeners, just sorted, like you made it. That's so not true at all.
No, it's
And
not. Because, I mean, even to maintain that kind of a number, like you can't be putting out songs like every week. Now these platforms are expecting you, and like, like, so that's how social media works, right? They want you to post and post and post. They
Right.
just want you to be a slave of the system, right? Who's just constantly
Yeah.
feeding and energy to it. So uh you can't be posting like a song a week. It takes a while, for someone
Right.
to write a song, to have a creative thought process, like if you want to really do it well, play live
Yeah.
instruments. And then, like, you need to spend a lot of money on marketing it, right? It's not easy
Right.
to get reach on any of these social media platforms anymore. So until you're paying, you're not getting any reach. So you have to pay. You're
Right.
actually ending up paying way more than what you get back in terms of royalties, right?
Mm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that way it's pretty challenging. And also, the problem with music's been, like, ever since piracy came into picture, and people stopped buying cassettes and CDs, like, the notion with music is that it's free. That notion, until that
Yeah,
changes
that's
in
true.
people's heads, like,
Right.
I don't think like anything will change, because I mean, if to be able to hear a song, one should ideally have to buy it or pay for it, and those amounts need to be substantial. Like, you can't be just selling them out for pennies. So again, like, a tech company had an idea to do this, and like, they've literally uh, normalized the entire industry to like such pennies. So
So
that's
is
very
there
that's sad.
are you saying there's still piracy for music?
I mean,
Like there's still piracy of music in India or like globally, or are you
globally, I feel, it started like that, with Napsters and LimeWires,
right?
right?
Lime wires, yes.
Right. So like, CDs were expensive, LimeWires and Napster and all
Yes.
these people just made everything available for free on the internet, right? To download.
All right.
And then you start feeling that, okay, this is free. Like,
Right.
so people in the last 20-25 years have associated music to be a commodity which is
Right.
free. So until that
Yeah.
changes, uh,
Yeah.
it's going to be very hard for musicians to
Yeah.
make like genuine money off music. Uh,
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's true. And I think but now I see more and more people like, at least like with Apple Music, I think it did help with removing piracy. Similarly for OTT and movies, right? Like nobody now, um, I would not imagine people to be, listening to pirated music or pirated movies anymore because now
yeah,
everything's OTT. It has made the system more complicated. Like no longer if I want to watch a movie, I have no idea. I genuinely don't know how to watch a movie anymore on platforms. Like I
yeah,
go on Google and it doesn't tell me contextually if I'm in
right.
Europe or US or in India where that movie is. So I
Okay.
have to, it's so painful for me to
Hmm.
go. I mean, maybe I just do it very, in a dumb way, but I go on Google and I'm like, okay, is this movie available in Europe? Tell me which platforms are showing it. And then how am I supposed to have, subscription to so many platforms? So that's just crazy. But also, Varun, talk to me about the creative process. I think 12 years of Antariksh. How do you maintain that creativity? Like, how do you keep at it? How does that not become a rut of, okay, I have to produce a new song? Is that has to do with the love for music that is still there, but how does that become a process? Like, how does that become a part of a system to be constantly creating things?
At least for me, the way it's been is that, I've had these time capsules that when I'm writing and recording, and then, you switch to, let's say, promoting or playing live. So last 1 year, I was recording this new album. And I mean, when I kind of wrote the songs for like at least 3-4 months, and then we started recording everything, we started mixing, and went through that entire process of like creating the final product. And now everything is almost done. Like, we're 90% there, and we've just put out the first song called Sabki Kahani. And now, like, mentally, I'm like completely in a different zone. So I'm only thinking of how do I like push this out, how do I promote it, like what campaigns do I need to run. uh, so I guess that kind of works out, because already I'm getting an itch to write more. You always,
Yeah.
the grass is always greener on the other side, right? Like you always want to
Right.
run to something else. So right now, when I am supposed to be, just pushing, promoting, doing all the marketing campaigns, I'm already getting an itch to write. So as soon as I'm done with this, I know I'm gonna go back to it. And for me to come up with new stuff is that, at least like a very simple philosophy I apply is that I try and learn something new. It could be a new guitar lick, it could be a new scale, it could be a new production trick. It could be, any like new element. It could be some new music theory that I've not discovered before. And then I try and apply it. And I just like, start like jamming with it. So the process is that, you, whatever idea you have, you just record it, you put it onto your DAW, and then, like you keep iterating, keep recording over it, jamming over it. And then, the
Yeah.
you get more ideas. So
Yeah.
it's fairly standard for me. It could start from a lyric, it could start from a chord progression, it could start from a drum groove, like whatever is very like, natural and
Yeah.
organic. I don't think at least like that, I have to do this within this given time. I don't follow that kind of process.
Yeah, and I think to your earlier point, I realize how the marketing and the creative side is like so orthogonal that a lot of the creative people I know who don't do so well is just because they've not been trained on the other side. They don't essentially understand either the technology or the marketing side of things. And also they're just like, okay, my job. And that's the thinking that you would have always, like when you watch even Bollywood movies, like, oh, the artist is supposed to be just creating. They're supposed to be suffering, having a terrible life, just focusing on writing music and not worrying about, selling it out. But it's behind the scenes, it's way, like, it's probably like 50-50 or even more, like for putting it out there. And I think, and that's the hard part because being a musician is a very lonely journey. You might be in a band, but even most of the people are just, single artists, independent, and they're supposed to put out all that music. And I was talking to one of my friends who's a rapper from Delhi, Shivam, and he was saying that, yeah, one of the smartest rappers who's, in the scene is Divine. And he's not just the biggest rapper, and he's the smartest rapper because he understood this is how to play the business. From the very beginning, like back in 15, 16, way before Gully Boy and these things blew up, like he knew that this is a career and this is like everything he's associated himself with it is like has to be very polished, has to be marketed. He's supposed to be at the right place at the right time. And most people don't think of it that way. They just think that if they create something nice, it should be on the people to go spread it out. Like things like I am noticing these things, like if you put out a YouTube video and in the first 5 seconds, if you just say, please go subscribe, that changes a lot of the conversion. You would imagine that if it's good content, you should not have to say it. But is this the psychology and, these things that are built into marketing and sales that people often miss out? And I think I would like, all those creative people to take at least a few courses in selling or marketing, because it just tells you so much about the human mind and psychology that it just makes that, a little bit easier. But talk to me about also the other thing that we had, we were talking about this thing, this thing, which is a very big, important part of our lives, is like Vipassana meditation, right? That's something that you and I discussed, multiple times. And I was genuinely surprised to hear some of your stories regarding Vipassana and how long back you've started. Like for me, that has been, I think if I had to say one thing that changed my life in the last 10 years, sorry, wife, but it it would be meditation because that is how I would say eventually how I even found my girlfriend and wife now, like, because it needed for me to do a lot of work. Talk to me about meditation. And, I think of you, that's what also stood out in my head. What stood out, for you was you're somebody who doesn't have, a massive goatee, doesn't have long hair, doesn't have tattoos, and I haven't seen you like crazy drunk, how you'd imagine a rock person to be. Has that like, how has that shaped you up? Like, how has that shaped you up? How has that shaped you personally, but also like as a professional, as a musician? Like, how do you think about those things? Because you do hang out with those people, right? And I'm not like, and there's nothing bad with it, but it's just like you would imagine a rock person to be looking a certain age. Like if you look at any album cover from 90s, there's a very stereotypical like image of a,
Yeah.
either a big mustache or big beard and just very long hair. You know, of any
I've had
album
long hair,
cover.
man. Like I've had like long hair like a bunch of times. In fact, I've like shaved my head a few times. So I've done all that stuff as well. But again, like I don't think that has anything to do, honestly, with the music. So to say, I was very clear. I remember back in college days, I didn't used to drink. I didn't used to smoke any of that. And people would be like, "Yeah, you're playing rock music. You're in a band. How do you not smoke? How do you not drink?" Like, I don't, it has nothing to do, but how do you feel the music? I was like, you don't need any of those substances or any alcohol to feel music. I mean, music is music. Yeah, it's just a completely, I feel, inappropriate association that's I've been
Just
stereotyped, I
been
guess.
carried through, right?
Yeah, just been
Yeah, just
carried
been
through for no
carried
reason.
through mainstream. Yeah.
Yeah. So I found it
But
very
on
stupid,
the
to be
flip side,
honest.
Varun, does I think it does help you, right? Like I think on the flip side, abstaining from it helps you, right? Like what I would say is like, for example, Vipassana meditation, which is all about like basically tuning up the sensitivity,
Uh-huh.
like to max. You get to hear things, you get to see things that you weren't paying attention, which is also what a lot of the drugs and stuff would help you. Is like
Hmm.
you could just narrow down to that one thing, and then it would of course pop out in a different way because now all the noise is gone.
Hmm. I won't be able to like because I've never had any of those, so I can't speak for that like that. At least for the drugs, but yeah, talking about Vipassana, I grew up in a household where my parents were into it. So at a very very young age, I got exposed to it. So like my parents, my extended family, everyone had discovered the Vipassana in the 90s, and they would go for a lot of these courses. We were still kids, but then we would have group sittings at home. So I would, just like sit through the pravachans. And so my childhood was kind of spent that way where I was absorbing all of that. And again, like I didn't know what it was back then, but at least, the things that were being spoken of resonated with me, made a lot of logical sense. I've never been like a very religious person. I think logic is what I would call my religion, if at all. So it kind of felt very logical, and then I think it was post my engineering is when I went for my first course, and that's when I actually discovered, like, learned the technique properly, and it is life changing, man. I mean, the things that you experience and learn, and the kind of awareness that you develop about awareness and understanding that you just develop about life, about yourself. I would recommend it to anyone and everyone. And
So you've had a few good seeds, which is like I would say, Vipassana was a good seed you had. Then you had that teacher who just made you listen to
yeah,
white
oh
snakes.
man, sahi mein.
So
Crazy.
you get all the flavors in life, and it also seems to me like like seeing you up close. I think I felt that in my head you look like a person who's been very confident on their identity, and that's also again the same thing that I don't think you needed those tattoos or like having that persona of somebody you're not to feel comfortable or to feel relatable, because I could imagine a lot of people would just buy in. Like if you're a rapper you need to look a certain way. If you're a Especially when you're in profiles, like if you're in front of a lot of people,
Mhm.
you usually give in to that persona because that persona and you kind of start dissociating, and that's where a lot of conflict also comes. You would find a lot of musicians not being happy because now they have to live up to that, put on that mask every day, and I
Yeah,
think you don't have to do that, and I think that helps you just focus on things that are important, that is music and
I
um
guess so. And to your point about that, I would give a lot of that credit to Mridul. So I remember when I just started out, when I had gotten into rock music, formed the first band. I was like, I was like a very different person. Uh, and I kind of wanted to be that person, like, the stereotypical rock star image that you have of a person. But then I met Mridul. He was like one of the best guitar players I'd ever seen. The most talented guy, like again, like super brilliant at academics, at everything that he did, and super modest. So really remember picking up on that element from him, that I realized that, it's really about the thing. It's not about like, the peripherals.
The aura
So
around it. Yeah.
yeah, and I was so influenced by him for a very long period that it kind of became a part of me. And then also kind of made logical sense, right? Like, I mean, it's all good. You get it, like, for whatever it's worth. If you feel like, doing all of that, do it. Like, yeah, but
Did you also see that in others? Like when you met, for example, Marty, when you performed with Parikrama, you opened for the big guys, Lucky Ali, Farhan. Did you, from whatever interactions you've had, did you get that sense as well that they're very comfortable in who they are? It's not like they've made it and they're become comfortable, but I think that's a equivalent, like step by step, you have to keep doing it. Otherwise the dissociation becomes too much.
yeah, 100%. You can't fake it. Like, you really have to be yourself, because this is something I've learned, like very, very clearly in my life, that there is no faking it. Like, it can never last you, right? If you're not that person, it just won't work out. Yeah, you will fall flat. You can't wear that mask every day. So you have to be who you are, and that's also true when it comes to songwriting and music that you put out. Sometimes a lot of people, what they do is they want to like copy a trend, or like only
Mm.
try and make music that's working. I feel in the larger scheme of things that never works.
Cannot work.
It
Yeah.
can't, right? Like, you
Right.
let's say you become famous for a song that you just don't resonate with, but you only wrote it because it was working out. Your life's gonna be hell,
Yes.
man. Like, you'll have to play that song for I don't know
Yeah.
how long, and
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it's just such a beautiful reminder. I was reading, I think in one of the economics book, I was reading about
Mm.
behavioral psychology books. I was reading about um, the lead person for Megadeth, and how he started Megadeth just because of hate for Metallica, and like Megadeth is numbers, like I would say one of the best rock bands ever, like maybe
Mhm.
number two, like after
Yeah, yeah.
Metallica, and that thing was the one that ruined him, and he was like, yeah, I have had kids, I've had family, but I don't sleep well at night because we couldn't beat Metallica. And I'm like, yeah, that's the way of
Yeah.
guaranteed suffering. When that's the way of
Yeah.
living
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
100%.
No,
Yeah,
coming
man.
like lastly, Varun, coming to like future of rock in India, like what do you see it as? And I'm again as a fan, I'm wondering like my kid is listening to the Rolling Stones. My kid listens to Led Zeppelin. Actually, that's the song that I calm her down when she's having colic or when she's having craziness. I would play the Kashmir for her, and that is the only song that calms her down since she was a baby. So I don't want to have a messed up child who can't relate to anybody else growing up. I'm wondering what is the future of rock in India and globally? Like, are you skeptic? Are you optimistic? um Give us some scenarios, like what do you think? Is this like, in my head, one scenario could be just like bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers, Led Zeppelin remain on, like that becomes an era like Kishore Kumar for
Mm.
Bollywood people, and then everything else is like whatever, like we don't care. Versus there's more and more generations, as I said, with Bloodywood, with Local Train, those are with Antariksh. Like how do you think that is going to keep evolving for the new players?
At least what I feel is that, something that has changed is the fact that, the line between different genres is not that solid anymore. You would have, like, let's say, rock music, metal music, jazz, blues, this, that, funk. These were very, like, the lines were very, very solid. I think those lines are blurred. Now you see a lot of fluidity, you see a lot of amalgamation of genres, right? So let's say Bloodywood only, right? They're folk metal, I guess. I mean, if you were to really kind of try and classify, because They're playing again very new metal, metalcore ish stuff, but there are elements of folk music. There's so same thing. Like even with Antariksh, my at least my thought process has been like I want to write the music I enjoy writing or creating. It doesn't matter whether it's pop or it's rock or it's metal or it's prog rock. uh, and also what happens is as you spend more time being a musician, or let's say if you kind of let's say mature a bit, you start picking up nuances and you start appreciating nuances from a lot of different genres. And at least that's been a thing for me. I love like listening to a variety of styles and picking up little nuances from here and there. So at least and that's where the fun is, right? Like, why do you want to write a classic rock song that sounds like what was done in the 80s?
Right.
No, I don't want to do that. I want to do what so I've listened to, let's say, Metallica, Megadeth, Dream Theater, Guns N' Roses. Today I'm listening to Maro. I'm listening to Bruno Major. So all of this comes together, like, and it's so funny, like when you're writing, you will never like consciously make an effort to bring those elements in. It just flows, right?
Right.
Let's say I'm writing a blues song, but some cinematic thing I would have heard, those elements will come in. So my feeling is that the fluidity between genres will only keep increasing. It might lead to, again, to kind of just classify newer genres coming, but generally it's
Yeah.
I feel like good music is good music, and it doesn't matter if it's rock or it's metal. The good thing so far about rock music in general has been that the messages have been very what would you say, interesting, very honest.
Yeah.
There's you're not talking about heartbreak, you're not talking about
Yeah.
falling in love. It's done and dusted with. Like
Yeah.
there are more layers to it. Like
Yeah.
at least the topics are more interesting, at least for me.
Yeah.
So that's what I think of it.
So Varun, as one of the top rock musicians in India right now, can you tell us your favorite 3 bands right now, like that you're listening to, that you think are, doing really well, and most of the audience should listen to and definitely check out these bands?
And my favorite band will always be Pain of Salvation. That's been like number 1 for more than 20 years now, and people should definitely listen to them. They're most likely coming back with an album very soon, but absolute geniuses. Then another band that I love is Leprous. They're again a Norwegian band in the prog metal space. Again, doing absolutely fantastic. I would actually take more than 3 names because there's at least 5, 6 of them who I really love. So then this guitar player called Jakub Zateski. He's a Polish guitar player. He's absolutely phenomenal. Like, you've never heard stuff like this played on the guitar before. He's just a prodigy. He's in fact played on one of our upcoming songs. And
Wow.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to putting out this one. It's going to be pretty mad. That's him. Then I love listening to this singer-songwriter called Maro. She's a Portuguese singer-songwriter. Again, one of the best. और क्या सुन रहे हैं यार? Yeah. Those are at least like my top favorites.
And then tell me, like, again, as a, top rock musician in India, like, I'm wondering, like, what is a couple of songs that you would recommend for people to listen to who are not into rock? They have, they've heard probably the best of rock songs. Like, maybe they've heard one song from Queen, one song from Pink Floyd. I'm wondering, like, what is their intro song that would make them think, okay, this is, so basically after listening to those 3 or 4 songs concretely, they can decide, okay, rock is not for me. But if they do like it, they should definitely go down the rabbit hole.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I don't know which era to pick a song from, but again, I'm thinking Whitesnake, the stuff that got me into this. So there's a song called "Is This Love" by Whitesnake. That's, I think, one, like, very palatable song for someone who hasn't heard a lot of rock music, I guess. So yeah, that's one for sure. Uh, what else, man? Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, but there's so many
Maybe
that,
some like some Guns N' Roses stuff, I
yeah.
guess. It's also kind of gets people
Yeah,
into
I was
it.
thinking
So,
like
I mean, the
November
usuals, right?
Rain. Yeah, like
Yeah, right. November Rain's that song, right? Which is such a beautiful song.
yeah. No, definitely. I think big part of my childhood, like, is, listening to rock, watching you guys back in day, like, dude had the GIR. And I think I saw Super Fuzz for the first time there. And I was like, wow, this is, my brother warned me that don't go too deep in. There's something called as a mosh pit. And I was 15 or 16, and
Oh wow.
suddenly in between of the concert I get like such a punch in my back. I'm like, yo,
Shit.
who's hitting me? And then I saw behind me what is happening, and it was just too intense.
Oh
And
god.
so like, where can people find you? Where can people follow your work? What would be the best medium for people to reach out to you?
I mean, we're literally on all the platforms, man. So if you want to listen to some of our music, we're there on all the usual suspects: the Spotify's, Apple Music, YouTube, of course. Uh, yeah, if yeah, I mean, we of course have our Instagram channel at Antariksh_official. We can find us there, and yeah, if anyone's interested in merch, Patreon, we have all of those things as well.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and maybe you can put down links
Yes.
on the video if that's possible.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think Quest is for sure everybody should be listening to it. That's, and for me, like, I
Thank
just
you.
remember by heart the whole Poj album, because again, I've been to so many
Yeah,
of those concerts that I remember it
yeah.
heart by heart, like, by heart all the lyrics.
I
And
Wow.
I'd be the one, like, in the concert, like, shouting it out, like, people like, "Hey, yeah, you know the lyrics." I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
So those are, very core memories for me, to be the
Hmm.
groupie, for the band, and like cheering on anything when I don't think the concert happened in DC when. Yeah, so one got cancelled, but I think I remember shooting. I was the photographer for one of the concerts that
Yeah,
happened in Delhi College of Engineering. So I just
correct.
wanted to thank you for, a big part of my upbringing, like, was Antariksh. So thank you, Varun, so
I'm
much, and
so
I
glad,
wish you the
man.
best.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I wish you the best, and like, there's a lot more coming, I believe, for Antariksh, as you said. If we did some new, is there a new album upcoming, or what's coming up next?
There. So, I've written a concept album, and I'm actually very excited to talk about this. So, it's a 12-song album, and all of the songs are tied together by this story of a character who takes on this leap of faith. And every song of the album is like a representation of some part of his journey. So there are songs which represent the excitement of taking on that leap of faith, and then there are songs which represent, like, when you've kind of hit rock bottom.
Right.
So like, there are different parts of the journey, and then there are realizations, and so it's all like, at least I feel it's come across, like, come together pretty beautifully in terms of the story and the songs. And we've just put out a song called Sabki Kahani. This is a song which basically talks about how sometimes conviction turns into ego.
Yeah.
So this is a song about a character who's taken that following his path of passion, and now has gotten like some bit of success. So he gets into like this mode of giving gyan to others. So like, he's like super convinced that everyone should be like doing the same, and he's developed this kind of ego. So that song is called Sabki Kahani, and so we plan to release the album in 2026. Hopefully, May 2026 is what we're looking at. But before that, we'll be putting out a song every month and a half. This album is like very close to. It's very personal. It's very close to my heart, and it's it's a product of a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. So I would love if people would check it out, and I'd love to. In fact, I'd send it across to you. I'd love to know what you think of it.
Awesome. No,
So
definitely,
yes, in terms of
definitely,
music, lots of stuff.
definitely will do. I think just last thing that, so this channel is called Inner Scorecard, and it's about, like, it's about interviewing and finding people who have, found and carved their own inner, like, depending on their inner scorecard and their inner calling, they've carved out their paths for life, and they're on that journey, or, wherever in the journey they might be. Could you share with us, like, just a couple of processes or systems that you have set up in your life that make sure that, your inner scorecard is way higher rated than what you have as external meanings? So these could be, I do know that, like, I think your family support system, like, your wife and your family, like, have always, so are there some systems that you have, either you have put them in voluntarily in place, or they have it in place, so that keeps you honest, that keeps you true to the grind and you're true to the inner calling?
Yeah, definitely. So my wife Ishita, she's like a big part of what I do. She's my first sounding board. So the fact that she is herself a very good musician, all my stuff, anything that I write, I'm constantly troubling her, sending the ideas, like, and she acts as my first bouncing board. And I get like a lot of genuine and honest feedback right there and then. So, which I feel, I'm truly grateful for, and really helps me with my process of writing and recording. In fact, like, she helps me, she sits with me on all my like recording sessions, like at least all the vocal recording sessions. And, because although I have the studio here, but you need to be like working with people. Sometimes it gets very lonely,
Right.
when you're working by yourself. So yeah, again, shout out to Ishita. She's a fantastic photographer. She's done like so much of our artwork. So like the biggest support system is right at home, and I'm very grateful for that. Other than that, and in terms of external processes and systems, what we love to do is we love to travel a lot. So that gives me a lot of perspective on life. It gives me that much needed break that I need from work. And then, like, you get to explore so many different cultures. You meet different people. Right. You look at life from so many different angles that, there are so many different ways of living life. And I feel everyone should do that, because that just kind of opens up the world for you and the understanding of life that, one has. I think those are a couple of things. I don't know if these are relevant to the inner scorecard.
No, definitely. I think, that's something that I am doing right now as a hiatus from Amazon for the past 4 months, or I have one more month remaining before I officially show up at my job. So I'm like trying to juice it out now. Like, like you took 3 years. I've given myself 4 months, and I think I'm actually thinking I should just take this every year. Just take 4 months off. I'm on unpaid leave. So, it's not a big deal. Like Amazon doesn't care because they're not paying me. So I'm like, this is addictive, this is pretty addictive.
Why not, man? Like, why not? Like, so I really strongly believe that in not conforming to, a lot of systems that societies put in place for us, and to always question, right?
Right.
What happens, I think, with most people and all of us all the time is that, we just are kind of so programmed that, we think of life in a very, linear way, right? That, this is how we have to live life. And and I don't like it. I really like, love questioning that why should, like, you do a certain thing a certain way only.
Right.
Yeah. Why not? Like, we work 6 months, you don't work 6 months. Like, what's the problem with that?
Questioning and then actioning, right? Like, I think a lot of people, as you're absolutely right, they question, but they remain at questioning. They would be the philosophers, like, 2 pegs down philosophers would be like, there's no meaning. And then tomorrow they'll go back to job, because again, the identity thing, again, the thing that, who are
Yeah,
you? If you do that, then it changes who you are. And
yeah.
are you comfortable with that new outlook? Like, same for me at 18, I had to quit NDA. And that was like the hardest part in my life, like, was to quitting NDA because that's the only thing I knew I wanted to do. Now you're not doing that. Now, who are you? Like, who are you, this
Wow.
shaved guy, like back in DC? Your friends don't recognize you because you're just a completely different
Mm,
person. So, I think that actioning is also, the other hard part that most people don't do. And but this has been a lot of fun, like just being away from work. And I do believe that going, even if if I don't find my inner scorecard and going back to work, I think I would sleep much better because I gave it a
mhm.
genuine attempt. As you said, like, with your with Antariksh formation, if it had not worked out, it would not, you not be thinking two ways about it. You
Great.
genuinely tried it, it worked out, it didn't work out, you come back and
Mm.
you sleep much better. I think, you're, because that was an honest attempt. It's not like something I could have done. And but this is beautiful, Varun. I had such a nice time talking to you. You know, you're from me, an
Likewise,
older
man.
brother. I look up to you a lot, and I always, I always am excited to see you. I want, I want you to meet my family. We have
I
recently
really
grown.
have to. It's been long
So
due, man. Yeah.
you would like Zora a lot, especially because she loves,
Yeah.
she listens to Bollywood from my uncle and aunts, and then she listens to rock from us. My best friend's a rapper, so she listens to a lot of rap music. So I don't know how she's gonna turn out to be. Uh, but this was such a beautiful conversation. Thank you, Varun. I really appreciate for your time. But this was so good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning into this conversation. I hope this left you with a few good questions, perhaps a few laughs, and definitely a reminder to keep following your curiosity wherever it takes you. If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing it with a friend, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay true to what matters the most, your inner scorecard.